Hi everyone, it's Tom, and today we're going to do a track breakdown for Little Leaf, my new EP. Let's get into it. So we're going to start with the kind of main loop of the song here, which sounds like this. And what this is basically 2 layers of piano. This is the first one. And the second one. And then I doubled this with the same exact pattern with the handpan, this handpan sound that I have, and it sounds like this. Which is super like bright and plucky, and really this is what brought the whole sound of this track kind of to my head, and this is kind of the starting point for everything. On this, I just added some delay. I mean, there's a bunch of delay on these as well, but they are bounced out now. Added some extra delay, some tape modulation, and that's pretty much it, just a bunch of EQ to clean it up as well. Along with this layer, we also have some synths that are also running throughout most of the song. These 3, and they sound like this together. And this is really like the kind of glitchy element of the song, where I have these 2 layers right here, which are just this simple ambient sound. But then they have this delay plugin called Delay with 2 E's. It's a free plugin, which you can find. I'm going to put the link in the description, and it's really good for these kind of glitchy, reverse, like high-pitched kind of sounds. And the 2 of them together. And the second one is just like the same pattern as the first one, but pitched down. So we have a bit more body to it, and it sounds like this with the delay as well. This is what's bringing this really high glitchy sound, this like very sparkly kind of thing to it. And then we have this textured synth, which sounds like this. This is actually just a synth loop sample that I found, and I put some auto shift on it so that it's kind of auto-tuning itself and becoming a bit glitchy, some heavy EQ and auto pan. And yeah, it's just adding a bit more like gritty and more textured elements, whereas these scenes are very kind of ambient. So everything together sounds pretty cool. Besides that, I have this synth, which is more of a normal synth sound, playing some chords. It sounds like this. This is for the ending section. Heavily sidechained to the kick, as you can hear, except for this last chord, which is where the kick kind of disappears for the ending of the song. I think it sounds pretty cool, actually. Yeah. Next up, some more melodic elements that we have here. I have these chords. This is a very like simple, very round and EQ'd out synth sound, playing the bass chords of the song, like these 3 chords. Also heavily sidechained to the kick. And they're just coming in to add a bit more body to really kind of reinforce that this is the chord structure of the song. And then I have this lovely, very ethereal vocal on top of it. Which I love, is so like breathy, and it really like elevates the whole thing into this ethereal kind of place. This is from a Production Music Live sample pack with Faker, who is an amazing artist that you should check out if you don't know him. And yeah, it comes already with a bunch of delay and reverb, and just some more EQing, and it's sidechained to the kick very slightly. It's like out of the box really cool, so yeah, it fit great in here. And lastly, we have these arps. So it's just like, again, the same chords as before, kind of reinforcing the chord structure of the song, but with this cool arp sound, which you can hear has a lot of auto pan on it as well, like you can hear it kind of going around your head. And yeah, I have 2 layers of this. Like the second one is the exact same sound, but I'm doing a different pattern, where it's kind of bouncing between the upper and lower octave of the bass note of the chord. So it sounds like this. Which for this ending section with the piano sounds really nice, I think. Like it really accentuates the whole bouncy kind of feel of the track. So next up, let's look at the bass for the song, as well as the lead. That's like the main melodic lead of the song that actually comes from the bass first. Let's look into it. So bass itself, as with most of my tracks, there's two like main parts to it. The main bass, where it's like very boomy, and then in this kind of range of the frequency spectrum, it sounds like this. And then I dub that with a second layer, which is the exact same sound, apart from something that I'll get to, but it's pitched up by 19 semitones. That's an octave and a fifth above the original. So it's kind of playing a power chord, and it sounds a bit more full, and it gives it high end and just brings out the bass a bit more, which is really nice. It sounds like this together. This is like the main bass line of the song, and here I simplify it a little bit just to be the root notes of the chords, kind of jumping up and down the octave. Like I said before, kind of accentuating the bouncy kind of feel of the track, like this. And in terms of processing in the bass, there's really not much to it. This is a pretty simple bass patch. It's sidechained to the kick, and I have some erosion on it as well, which gives it a little bit of noise and helps it pop out in the mix a little bit as well. And the same goes for the harmony, except in the harmony I also have some reverb. So I find it really cool to add a reverb to just the high end of the bass and to this pitched up part. So you're not getting any reverb on the main bass or any muddy, like low end kind of stuff, but you get on the higher side of the spectrum, which again helps it pop out of the mix a bit more. And that's kind of it for the bass. It's pretty simple, but it is where the main lead of the song, like this pattern, or not this pattern, this pattern, comes in. So for the climax section here, I wanted to go harder on this melody. So I dubbed it with a couple of things, and it sounds like these two tracks. So it's very like up high register kind of thing. And there's two sounds here. This is a synth lead from this plugin called Casio Slow Tape that I found on Piano Book a while ago. There's a lot of like gems in Piano Book for sure. And this is one of them. And the second one goes very hard into this like bright, plucky sound that I wanted to have on this track. And it's this kalimba sound. Very high, very, again, like plucky, metallic. And you can hear some like reverbs being played. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah. Combining the kind of bassy, boomy lead with this very high, bright and plucky gives it this sound. Which is very cool. It kind of has everything. It has a lower spectrum, the very high stuff, and it just, yeah, it works on its own. So let's take now a look at the percussion here. I'm just gonna go down the layers and show you how those sound and kind of what the thought process was there. Kick is very straightforward. This is just a really nice kick sample that I found. It's a 4 on the floor kind of thing, no extra processing on it. Yeah, really nice kick. Then we have this riser, which is like this specific riser I use in many of my songs. Like you can hear it all the way throughout. It sounds like this. So it's just a hi-hat, but there's a couple of things happening here. I use a vocoder and I'm automating the release time here. So it sounds a bit like closed at first and then it keeps opening up. So it works better as a riser. I'm also I'm automating the balance. So it goes from left to right. And the gain as well. So it's getting louder, it's opening, and it's kind of going from left to right. So if we hear it again. Yeah, very effective riser, very simple as well. So snare elements, I have 2 here. So I'm gonna start with this one because you hear it first in the mix and it sounds like this. It's actually a tonal snare. Which, this is also, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of samples from this sample pack. This is one that, like, I would find it difficult to find a use for it, but it somehow just fits perfectly in this track. like this kind of tonal snare. It's not always easy to find a good place for it, but it works really well here. And then I double it with an actual like more kind of normal snare that sounds like this by itself. And the two of them together. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. And then I have a couple of shakers. This is like the main one. Just a pretty simple shaker loop that I'm doing some autopan on, vocoder, where I'm applying an LFO on the release time so that it's always kind of changing around. It's like closing a bit and then opening up a bit more, sidechain to the kick, and that's pretty much it. Also very straightforward. Then I have a second shaker sound, which is more like focused on the offbeat here. So it works kind of like a hi-hat on the offbeat, more so than a shaker, but it is a shaker sound. Together they sound like this. Yeah, and then I have this drum machine sound, which sounds like this. Which is pretty cool, and this was like a full beat, and I kind of removed the low end from it because it would clash with what I already had. Like this kick doesn't really fit with the rest, so I just kind of slice it off there. Redux to make it even more like kind of lo-fi and crushed. Hard punch, saturation. And then I have an LFO here, which is mapped to the gain of the whole track, so it's not always like completely robotic and mechanical. It actually like comes down, comes up a little bit, feels a bit more natural. And then the last thing that I have is that I turn on the beat repeat here for the climax of the song. So it normally sounds like this. But for the climax, yeah. So it's just kind of repeating and accentuating a couple of the beats. So it gives it a bit more of a, okay, this is a real climatic moment and there's some like extra element in there. And I think it sounds pretty cool. Then I have this one, which is from the same sample pack, and it's another percussion loop, which sounds like this. Just the kind of stuff that sounds very maybe uninteresting by itself, but then complements really well with the rest of the percussion. And then lastly, I have these two layers of bongos. So these are just bongo samples, two of them, not even that fit together that well necessarily, but let's see how they sound. This one is on the left side. This one is on the right. Yeah, and they don't really match that well, but it creates like an interesting kind of rhythm. That's just like when it's sitting behind a very steady kick and snare pattern, it creates some like really interesting patterns inside it. So I think it works out really well. I'm just taking off a lot of the low ends, so it's not, again, colliding with the kick or anything like that. And yeah, the percussion altogether sounds like this. As far as processing here, I'm just doing some glue compressor with this full parallel preset, so nothing overly complicated. And then there's a section here where I turn on this phaser flanger. So this is for the ending to add some phaser to the drums. And there's an LFO on the dry wet, so it's kind of going a bit wetter, a bit drier, and it sounds like this. Yes. So you can see that I'm also automated the dry wet here to kind of work as a riser as well. Like this is going into the climax of the song. And then the whole ending section has the dry wet like all the way up here. I just love how the drum sounds with this kind of processing on it. So next up, let's take a look at the piano, which comes in at the end of the song. It sounds like this. So the piano itself is a pretty straightforward thing. I'm using here, I believe, una corda. Oh no, Oliver Arnold's piano. You don't need like a fancy piano plugin for something like this. You could use like Lab Soft Piano, would be great. It's a pretty simple line. I'm just doing a little bit of EQ and a couple of things that I do then to make it sound a bit more glitchy and stand out in the mix as well. The first one, I always like to do this with like a lead piano that goes on top, is that I bounced off this track and then I added an auto shift to it and I'm pitching it up 1 octave with a bit of formant as well. So it sounds like this. So it's the same piano line and it's pitched up in a way that's not like really that accurate or sounds that good. It's super glitchy and full of artifacts. But if you're looking to add ear candy to the piano, which is what I was going for, it works super well. Yeah, it's so weird. I love it. So besides that, like for the bounce, I also took the very first note and I reversed it, which enabled me to do this kind of transition into the piano, like it sounds like this. So instead of having the note just come in, there's a little bit of a lead up to it. And finally, I have as well like this, which is just like a chopped up and very delayed version of the very first note, which I'm just kind of using it to accent and to give it a bit of a stutter feeling to it. So it sounds like this. Instead of just having like the first note, we have a da-da-da-da. So it's very weird and glitchy, and I like that. So we're almost done here. I have this layer, which I call ear candy, and this is a really nice way of creating some ear candy. Basically what I did, I just took one of the bounce tracks from the song and I threw it into a simpler, the Ableton simpler, and I put it on slice mode. And then I just came up with some weird, arbitrary, or even like you can use the generate function here to create a pattern, a MIDI pattern, and it's going to play like tiny slices of whatever track you put in there. So in my case, it sounds like this. With some delay as well, if I take it out. So yeah, this is just something you can try to experiment with and just create some patterns, and it's going to be really effective at creating this kind of ear candy, filling up some gaps. I use it here in the beginning, for example, like when the song is still very quiet, I put in this sound. Like in contrast, it sounds like this. It's just like very faint and in the background, but it's the kind of ear candy that like pulls you in and you're like always kind of finding new things in the song. And I love hearing those kind of things in other people's music. So I love scattering this kind of stuff in there as well. And yeah, as I said, a little bit of delay on it, taking off all of the lows and low mids, because I just want like some high flutter around me. And there's some LFO as well on the gain. So it's always coming in and out. I have fresh air on it. This is just like boosting up the very high frequency so that it pops out of the mix a little bit. You could also use something like erosion for this. And yeah, I'm scattering this throughout the track and it sounds pretty good. Besides that, I have just some white noise that I use for transitions. This is also like what I do on most of my tracks, like just have this. Yeah, it just helps out a lot to have some form of noise on your mix to give it a bit more air, and it's very effective in transitions as well. Like you can see here, I'm transitioning between this section and this section, so I'm having the noise fade in and then be at its peak when the transition is happening, and then it's like fading down again. So it sounds like this. I'm gonna make it louder so I can so you can hear it a bit better. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's very like sidechain to the kick as well. So it keeps going on the pulse of the track. There's some delay and reverb so that it kind of like goes on for a while. Even if you make it very quiet, it's still like really nice. And that's pretty much it. All we have left is this return track, which is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting on ear candy as well. So I'm using Output Portal here, which is one of my favorite plugins on this Digital Tape Toys preset that I altered a little bit. And basically I'm feeding it some of the tracks and it's giving it this kind of reverse delay and some like fluttery, weird glitchy sounds. I'm gonna solo it and it sounds like this. So you can hear it's like kind of like the original track, but a bit weirder, and there's some artifacts and some glitches to it, and there's also a bit of reverse delay on it. So that really helps, like, for example, with these very the higher sounds, like the kalimba, if I isolate it, like you can really hear how the reverse delay is coming in, and also like these artifacts, and it makes the whole sound more interesting. I think that's like for leads and for higher registry stuff, it's very important. And I'm chopping off all of the bass and low mids because again, I just want the high flutters around me, more EQ, and I'm saturating it to the kick as well, just to again contribute to the whole pulse of the track. And again, I'm using fresh air here also to give it a bit more pop in the mix. That's about it. Thank you for watching. I hope it helped. And let me know which song you'd like to hear next. Thanks again and see you next time. Bye bye.